Hey, what's up? My name is John Bonjour. I am a comic artist and film enthusiast. I have not drawn any art because I don't really do that for this kind of video, but I would like to enthuse about some film because Fantastic Four First Steps is coming out next week, so I want to do what I call a What Are the Stakes video. Okay, so like I said before, Fantastic Four is coming out next week. I'm just going to call it Fantastic Four because Fantastic Four First Steps is a very long title. Fantastic Four comes out next week. It is directed by Matt Shakman, who also show-ran a lot of WandaVision, and I think was involved in a couple of the other shows. Maybe Wonder Man coming up? Anyway, this is a movie that's been through a lot of changes. There were a lot of casting concerns, a lot of things that people thought were going to be things. There's been a lot of rumors around this movie, and a lot of it, I don't know how much of it to believe, I don't know how much of it is true, but there's been a lot of iterations, it seems, of what this Fantastic Four movie was going to be. It was announced way, way long ago at a Comic-Con where they announced a bunch of other things that have all since come out or been canceled. So we are now on the edge of our seat as Fantastic Four is about to finally be released before Blade somehow, and it's very interesting. So I want to take a second to address the financial aspects of the movie, where we're sitting financially. I want to address the cultural, general pop culture idea of where we're at, and also from a franchise perspective, how do I think we're doing on this movie? Where do I think the stakes are of the film? I always say these are just something to give you some nerd shit to talk about with your friends, so here you go, let's get into the nerd shit. From a budget perspective, this has a reported budget, although it is very unclear, they've been a little cagey about it, of somewhere between $210 and $250 some million, which is a superhero movie budget, but I will die on the hill of that being an absurd amount of money to put toward anything like this. That is insane. Don't get me wrong, I'm very excited about the movie, but that's a lot of money. That's like a crazy amount of money. And it's wild to me that we're in a world where we can make $200 million movies and the classic mid-range $80 million movie just doesn't get made anymore. I suppose that's a sort of a complaint for a different thing. The Fantastic Four budget is somewhere in the range of $200 to $250 million, which let's say that it's 220 or so. That means it has to make $450 million to break even, probably somewhere in there. Usually these kinds of things are about 1.5 times their budget for the marketing expenses and all that they have to make up. I'm gonna say it's probably more like 2. They've been marketing a lot. They've been doing all kinds of insane stuff. So it has to make probably somewhere in the $400 to $500 million range, which is not unreasonable. It's not impossible. That is a pretty substantial ask, though, all things considered. Captain America did okay. Thunderbolts did a little bit worse than Captain America, financially speaking. So it's going to be really interesting to see where we're at. I think the goodwill coming out of Thunderbolts, and we'll get into this later, is probably going to help it out. But financially speaking, Fantastic Four is in a weird place because it is coming out in a month of Jurassic Park, which is already making buttloads of money, as we all kind of assumed it would, and Superman, which looks like it's going to be exceptionally well received. I'm recording this before it's coming out, but it looks like it's going to be really well received, and that looks to be making a substantial amount of money as well. So Fantastic Four could very much ride the wave of that box office glory that we've been seeing for the last month. It also could kind of suffer because everybody's already gone out to see 2 other movies this month, and money is a little tight, and the world is a little bad. My guess is that it's going to do well financially. I think we're going to be just fine. If it's any good, the word of mouth will probably pass on because people like to tell people when a Marvel movie's good. There's no external factor that I think would make people want to demonize this movie. There's no major thing that makes this, I don't know, there's always controversy around these things, but I haven't seen anything that there's no unified force against this movie. So I think generally speaking, probably financially it's going to be pretty successful. That does kind of dovetail into our pop culture, where we're at as a society, where we're at with all of the superhero stuff going on right now. Fantastic Four is a really odd choice, all things considered, for where we're at. It's very exciting. I think it's going to be really interesting to see how it plays and how it handles some of the themes that it seems to be tackling. But in terms of pop culture, people are a little bit tired of superhero stuff and sort of looking for something different. And I think Fantastic Four, while being a weird call for the things that they've chosen to do, making it this kind of retro futuristic aesthetic, I think it might be exactly what people want, especially paired with Superman. Again, haven't seen Superman at time of recording, but it does seem like Superman is going to be more the classic, well, not classic, the new classic, hopefully, modern comic book gold standard. It looks like it's going to be the thing that modern comic books movies should be, and I think Fantastic Four might feel a little bit more in the retro positivity, happy, fun family vibes, although I have my own personal predictions about how the end of this movie is going to go. But I think generally speaking, this is going to be a very fun, watchable, exciting, heartfelt movie. At least if it's what it's being promoted as, which that does seem to be the point of the promotional material. They seem to be really focusing on the family aspects and very little on the superheroics of the movie, which I actually think is going to do it very well. Pop culturally, there's a couple of kind of negative elements going on here. One, the general Marvel fatigue seems to be sort of strong, especially after Captain America Brave New World. People are still feeling that sense of like, it was fine, it was an okay movie. I think Thunderbolts probably helped that a lot to not be the last thing that people remember. I think that Thunderbolts is a great movie that people seem to be really enjoying, and that's good. I just know that there are people that are ready to write this off. There's a large subset of the internet that is entirely happy to just say, yeah, it's another bad Marvel movie. And I'll be interested to see if it's okay, it'll probably land in that territory, and that's going to be a little bit of a shame. There are people who are upset about the casting of this in a lot of directions, and I get that, but I also think that eventually people will warm up to it. It's just this thing that comic book fans do, where it doesn't look exactly like the guy that they think it should look like, and so they get all upset, and then it ends up being good, and then we all go, oh, okay, I guess it was fine. Happened with Wolverine, it happened with Superman a couple of different times. I think it happened with the Joker, with Heath Ledger. This is just a thing that happens with comic book movies. I think people are just upset about it. There's the whole, and I hate that I'm even using this word in a video, woke element of it. I don't think that's honestly going to affect this movie very much, but it must be mentioned because it is a thing that people are upset about for whatever I don't know. I don't want to get into that. This is like a thing that I try to avoid in making these videos, is trying to get, I want to avoid getting into the dumb shit that people think and feel, even though it is important to the way that the movie operates and the way the movie is received. Point being, there are people that are upset that Pedro Pascal is in this. I think he's going to do great, and I think by the time the movie comes out and by the time people actually see it, they'll be fine with it, even if he is in a bunch of other things. The only other slight negative going into this is that there was apparently a test screening done, and it got some pretty middling to okay reviews. I'm so unsure of how I feel about test screenings. I think it's an interesting data point just in how people tend to feel about it. But I also don't think it's gospel. I think it's not wise to consider those like just general truths about the movie. People who see test screenings, there's 1,000 different factors that might change the way they feel about the movie. It could be that the movie isn't completely done. It could be that they were just having a bad day. It could be that they already actively chose not to like the movie. There's a very negative Superman review out there that, again, recording this before Superman comes out. The first super negative Superman review came out, and everybody was kind of freaking out because they're like, oh no, maybe it's bad, maybe we don't like it. And then it ended up being like, this guy also hated Sinners and also is a huge Zack Snyder fan. So it's like, yeah, there's other factors going into it. Never take anyone's opinion as fact, and I say that as a guy who reviews movies regularly. My opinion should not deter you from seeing a movie. I just think it's interesting to discuss film. That said, there are some positive things going into this from the pop culture perspective. This is a movie that looks very interesting. I mentioned that before. It looks completely unique from anything else that Marvel has done. If anything, it looks the most like Captain America: The First Avenger, which is a movie that people are very reminiscent of. It's going to be really interesting to see how people respond to the retrofuturism of this movie. It'll be interesting to see going forward if that's a thing that continues. They seem to be in another dimension, and there's a very good likelihood, especially with Doomsday and Secret Wars, that they're going to end up just sort of being in the mainline MCU. So this might be the only time that we really get a chance to live in that world for a minute. I think there's also just some general goodwill going forward. This is not like Superman. Superman had 7 or 8 different gold standards that were set by other Supermen, and now this one has to live up to that. There is no great Fantastic Four movie. There are 2 pretty fun ones, 1 really bad one, and 1 so average to mediocre that it never even got released. So there isn't a gold standard of the Fantastic Four movies, other than maybe Incredibles, which it's like, that doesn't really count, but in terms of that's the closest we have ever gotten to a truly great Fantastic Four movie. I think people want a great Fantastic Four movie. They're good characters. It's fun to see an emotional heart family in the MCU. I think it'll be very interesting in that regard. And so it's the fact that there hasn't been a good one, I actually think is probably a good thing for this, because people want there to be a good one. There's a reason we keep remaking them. There's an iconography to these characters that I think is underutilized, and I'm excited to see what they do with it. Before we dive into what they're going to do with it, before we dive into the MCU sides of it, I want to just take a quick moment and address our sponsor. And by sponsor, I mean me. I have a free comic book. It's called Edge of Bordertown. It is on my website. Again, 100% free. My website is johnbonart.com. My comic Edge of Bordertown is a post-apocalyptic sci-fi drama, action, adventure, sometimes comedy, about a guy with an octopus head wandering the wasteland of probability. And it is genuinely very good, I think. Anyway, I'm very proud of what I've created, and I would really appreciate it if you read it. Again, there is literally no catch to it. It is 100% free, and it always will be. So please go read it. My only other thing that I want to plug real quick is that I have a podcast, MPRPH, Motion Picture Retribution Power Hour, with my two best friends in the world, where we watch bad movies and talk about them together. So go check that out, MPRPH. Go check out Edge of Bordertown. Let's get on with the video. From an MCU perspective, I've said it before, I'll say it again, Marvel's in a very weird place right now. There is simultaneously this energy of everything is building and going well, and people are excited, and there's been good movies, and things are going great with Ironheart, with Thunderbolts, with even Captain America was pretty okay, although middling reviews on that. There is a genuine side of positivity to the Marvel Universe right now that we haven't seen in a little bit. Deadpool, I think, contributed to that. People are understanding what they're going for. People are appreciating what's been good. And so there is that side to it. There is also the other side to, there is Fantastic Four, a couple of different shows, Eyes of Wakanda, Wonder Man, maybe a Vision Quest show that's been tossed around a little bit, maybe Daredevil, there's a Punisher special, and then Doomsday, the next major, huge Avengers movie, which is actively crazy. Not because they haven't had enough projects to build up to Doomsday, but because they haven't really built up to Doomsday necessarily. Like, I am very excited about that movie. I am super looking forward to another Avengers movie. It's about damn time, if you ask me. That said, I kind of would have liked this to be a low-level Avengers movie that doesn't feel like a part one of the Secret Wars storyline. It doesn't feel like they're trying to do Infinity War Endgame already immediately again. And I only say immediately because that was the last Avengers movie that we got. I would have liked to see Kang Dynasty. I would have liked to see a lower level, smaller, tighter knit, just the Avengers being the Avengers, doesn't have to be the end of the world kind of thing. But that is not what we're getting. And I will be the first to say that judging a movie by what you think it should have been is a very bad way to consume media. It is idiotic in every conceivable regard, but it is interesting bringing it back to Fantastic Four. There's a lot of weight on this movie. The stakes are highest for the MCU. But bringing it back to the Fantastic Four, there's a lot of weight riding on this movie. This is probably where the highest stakes are for the film. If this is bad, Doomsday is going to have a real hard uphill battle, because it's already coming out of an okay Captain America movie, a great new Avengers Thunderbolts movie, and then now a potentially bad Fantastic Four movie. That would be really hard on the film, and I'd be interested to see how they handle it going forward. That said, if it's really, really good, it doesn't necessarily mean anything for Doomsday. Unless this is a movie that connects to Doomsday, leads into Doomsday in some pretty specific ways, it being phenomenal will only add a little bit of goodwill going forward to the universe. If it's phenomenal and also builds the story in a way that feels satisfying, great. That's kind of the best case scenario. I don't know if any one project can do that. Getting ahead of ourselves, because it's not really important what this means for Doomsday. What is important is that if this movie is good, I think people will want to tell other people and share that. And if it is bad, I think people will want to share it even more. So it'll be very, very unique to see how people handle this movie. I am personally, just on my own level, uniquely excited for this movie. The Thing is one of my favorite comic book characters of all time. I love him so much. I love a big, weird monster man with a heart of gold. But outside of that, I am excited to see it. I like the vibe of this movie. I'm looking forward to the Fantastic Four, and I really, really hope it's good. But let me know what your thoughts are. I would love to know where you think we're at in any of these regards. Hit me up in the comments below. Thank you so much for watching this video and checking out my channel. If you'd like to hear more of my thoughts on movies, comics, TV shows, A Rocks Man, hit the like button, hit the subscribe, and comment down below what you'd like me to talk about next, or do none of those things because I am not your dad.